Pitco's patented SpinFresh technology spins off excess oil from fried products after cooking. The lack of excess oil produces a fried food that is less greasy and lower in fat without sacrificing taste. Built-in acceleration and decelerations of the spin speeds allow for food to be spun without damaging the product. The excess oil from the spin process is returned to the fry tank, reducing oil loss. The Pitco SpinFresh units can be ordered in either gas or electric models from similar current Pitco models as shown here. A safety feature of the Pitco SpinFry is its built-in safety switch, which will only allow the unit to spin while the lid is in the closed position. Two pistons hold on the SpinFryer lid. The pistons are attached to the lid and body by an eyelet and C-ring. Front and rear attaching points are assembled in the same manner. There is a proximity switch located towards the rear of the lid and is visible when the lid is in the open position. The normally open switch is located inside a metal enclosure at the base of the lid, and the magnet which closes the lid when the lid is closed is located here. The paddle is what raises and lowers the basket in and out of the oil. The basket also spins on the paddle when in the spin position. It is very important to keep the paddle clean and free of debris so the basket raises and lowers without any obstruction. There are two locating pins in the paddle which align the holes in the bottom of the basket assembly. Periodic inspection of these pins is necessary to ensure proper basket operation. The metal tip of the longest locating pin allows the basket to spin properly. This metal tip must remain smooth and free of any major scratches or damage. If damaged enough so that the basket does not spin freely, the paddle must then be replaced. To remove the paddle from the lift rods, you must first remove the upper two screws. After the screws have been removed, you can slide the paddle downwards and off the lift rods. When installing the paddle, make sure the grooves on the end of the lift rods line up with the two upper mounting bolts of the paddle. If the basket becomes jammed while moving in the upwards direction, the metal bar on the bottom of the paddle will bend and it will not allow the paddle to sit level. The bar is replaceable by removing the 4 bolts holding it to the paddle. To help keep the basket from binding on the lift rod guides, we have added a small metal deflector. This will keep a misaligned basket from becoming jammed as it is raised into the spin position. This photo shows the assembly of the components in order to install the deflectors. The acorn nuts used to secure this assembly should not be over-tightened. The white lift rod bushings should be allowed to move slightly. The lift rods are secured to the lift arm assembly by 2 7/16 inch bolts. These bolts should be checked occasionally to verify they have not come loose. The spin motor is located in a cover on top of the fryer and behind the lid. It is held in place by 3 bolts. Inside the motor housing you will find the 48-volt step motor, electrical connection for the motor, and the electrical connection for the lid safety switch. The motor is supplied with an O-ring to seal it from the oil. Make sure the O-ring is in its proper position before tightening the motor mounting bolts. The 2 flat spots on the motor shaft are used to install the basket cam on the motor using the 4 set screws. There are 2 threaded holes in the cam to secure it to the motor shaft. Each hole gets 2 set screws. Tighten the first set screw to the motor shaft and then tighten the second set screw on top of the first. The basket assembly is held together by 4 screws. First, place the washer over the center bottom of the basket. Place the handle over the washer. Place the gasket on the handle assembly and then the mounting plate. Make sure the 4 screws are tight and secure. The handle assembly should move freely when installed correctly. There are 2 versions of the SpinFry electronics cabinet. Shown here is the old style. This area houses the relays K1 through K4, the power supply board for the spin motor, stepper motor speed control driver board for the linear actuator, the transformer, and the linear actuator. The newest version of the SpinFry model introduces a new spin motor power supply board and mounting bracket. The power supply board takes incoming voltage and converts a 48-volt DC supply for the stepper motor, which spins the basket after the cook cycle has completed. K1 through K4 relays are in order from left to right. K1 relay is for the upper limit of the actuator. K2 relay is for the lower limit of the actuator. K3 is the electronic brake for up and down action of the actuator. Brake is released when the relay is energized. K4 relay is the enabling relay for K3. This relay receives a 24-volt DC signal from the controller to allow the K3 relay to function. The 24-volt DC linear actuator has 3 positions: spin, load, and cook. A normally open proximity switch slides into a locating hole in the collar. All 3 collars can be adjusted by loosening the collar screws and sliding the collar up or down as needed. Retighten the screws to hold in position. The magnet, which activates the switches, is located inside the shaft of the actuator. The K1 relay works with the upper limit, the K2 relay works with the lower limit, and the middle load position has no relay and is only a 24-volt DC feedback to the controller for position purposes only. The speed control for the stepper motor is what controls the speed of the motor when programmed to a set RPM on the Fryer controller by the end user. It is important that the wires connected to the speed control are not stripped too far back. If too much bare wire is exposed, the wires can short out against the back wall of the fryer. A small amount of heat transfer compound must be applied to the back side of the speed control prior to mounting it to the cabinet. The basket lift driver board is 24 volts and controls the up and down movement of the basket. It supplies the actuator with voltage and interacts with the proximity switches on the actuator shaft. If your Pitco appliance is equipped with SpinFresh technology, the tank enclosure can interfere with the performance of a pre-existing fire safety system. Always contact a professional who is qualified in installing, designing, and/or maintaining your fire safety system to ensure that any appliance located under the fire safety system are adequately protected. This concludes this informational video on the Pitco SpinFry unit. If you need more information, please contact us at 603-225-6684 or visit our website at www.pitco.com.